whatever. Battery died, so yeah. Try to keep this short, actually. As I was saying, well, yeah. There's not really enough time, I don't think, to go into everything like that. So, yeah. Well, so yeah. Also, because a lot of these ideas, I'll probably want to discuss in the near future anyway. Not necessarily in the context of this book, but some of the ideas are like popular kind of ideas anyway that I can see revisiting in some shape or form, for what that's worth. Right. So, yeah. There's kind of more to it than that, but for example, at a certain point he goes into the whole kind of thing like, what if plants are conscious? And he says that there have been experiments that showed that, or that have shown that a plant knows or is kind of aware that it might be damaged in some way. But while that's all interesting and whatnot, I guess I'll go ahead and say it's nothing new, so to speak. And so, like, it hasn't been updated, or he doesn't mention like any new definitive evidence for that or anything like that. But at the same time, kind of feeding off of that idea is just kind of some stuff about diet, which he says he was taught kind of in a way by someone, and that ultimately what works for someone might not work for you. So just kind of go with how stuff makes you feel. Like, there was an anecdote that said, it's more about what you do eat than what you don't eat, I guess. He's like, as far as all the consciousness goes, he was saying that whenever he would eat tomatoes, his joints would feel weird, and so he stopped eating tomatoes, and then he just kind of noticed that feeling go away. So that's kind of extra. Yeah. That's pretty much the last thing I wanted to mention. But if I could have remembered it all, that is. And there's some other stuff in there too, but like I said, I guess if you want to know the full story, ultimately you have to check the book out yourself, which I think you might enjoy, you might not regret. Dang. Yes. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like a final thing. There are a lot of quotes spread throughout here, as is typical. Yeah. Right. So yeah. 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 So the author does a decent job of that. He did a pretty decent contribution to the field of consciousness in general. Besides some of the gripes that I previously mentioned, and his main thesis is fairly represented, but it kind of turns into something more like in different kind of ways to be more respectful of the planet. And at some point he claims the biggest question of all time is, why does anything exist? Which I suppose can be a fairly interesting question, and that's where the whole, computer program thing comes in. Like, oh, what if this is all a simulation? And that would be interesting. mean, it would make sense for a few certain reasons. Not just makes sense, but it would be interesting. And even at that, even if it was the whole simulation thing, it's still funny in a way that we would have to rely on starlight and whatnot. But after that, there's a fair amount of deja vu type stuff. That he mentions. So that's the question. Is that the purveyor of all that exists? And really might have some more answers for you next time. But yeah. Yeah, I would recommend this. If you do want to borrow it, send me a message. I don't mind. Never give it back. I wouldn't particularly mind either. Some books I do care if you give back or not, but I'm not talking about it. Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, I would give it like a 3 out of 5 if I had to use a rating system of some sort. Yeah. In the meantime, look up Gregory Sands. Kind of interesting. Fortunately, out of time.